Sudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 8, text number 27. Okay. Nayata Shriti Partha Janam Yogi Bhuyati Kaschanaha Tasmad Sarvesu Khalesu Yoga Yukta Bhavarjuna Naiti Sriti Partha Janam Yogi Muyati Kaschana Tasmat Sarvesu Khalesu Yoga Yukta Bhavarjuna Nayate Shriti Partha Janan Yogi Muyati Kaschana Tasmat Sarvesu Khalesu Yoga Yukta Bhavarjuna Nayate Shriti Partha Janam Yogi Muyati Kaschana Tasmat Sarvesu Khalesu Yoga Yukta Bhavarjuna Yogi Muyati Kaschana Tasmat Sarvesu Khalesu Yoga Yukta Bhavarjuna Nayate Partha Janam Yogi Muyati Kaschana Tasmat Sarvesu Khalesu Yoga Yukta Bhavarjuna
Nayate Sriti Partha Janam
Nayate Sriti Partha Janam
Yogi Muyati Kaschana
Yogi Muyati Kaschana
Tasmat Sarvesu Khalesu Yoga Yukta Bhavarjuna
Yoga Yukta Bhavarjuna
Nayate Sriti Partha Janam
Nayate Sriti Partha Janam
Yogi Muyati Kaschana
Yogi Muyati Kaschana
Tasmat Sarvesu Khalesu
Tasmat Sarvesu Khalesu
Yoga Yukta Bhavarjuna
Yoga Yukta Bhavarjuna. Anybody else? Nayane Shriti Partha Janan Yogi Muyati Kaschana Tasmat Sarvesu Khalesu Yoga Yukta Bhavarjuna. Word for word synonyms. Na, never. Ete, these. Two. Sriti, different parts. Partha, Partha? Oh, son of Pritha. Yes, oh, son of Pritha. Janan, even if he knows. Yogi, the devotees of the Lord. Isn't that interesting? The yogi, the definition is the devotees of the Lord. So keep that in mind. Mohyati is the bewildered. Kaschana, any. Tasmat, therefore. Sarvasya kalesu, always. Yoga, yukta, engaged in Krishna consciousness. Bhava, just become. Arjuna, oh Arjuna, that one is easy. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada ki Jai. Translation. Although the devotees know these two paths, O Arjuna, they are never bewildered. Therefore, be always fixed in devotion. So let's try to repeat this translation. Although the devotees know these two parts, O Arjuna, they are never bewildered. Therefore be always fixed in devotion. Purport. Krishna is here advising Arjuna that he should not be disturbed by the different paths of the soul can take when leaving the material world. A devotee of the Supreme Lord should not worry whether he will depart by arrangement or by accident. The devotees should be firmly established in Krishna consciousness and chant Hare Krishna. Any questions or comments? That's the end of the class right there. Prabhupada summed it up right there. He should know that concern over either of these two paths is troublesome. The best way to be absorbed in Krishna consciousness is to be always dovetailed in his service. And this will make one's path to the spiritual kingdom safe, certain, and direct. What are the three words there? Safe, certain, direct. The word yoga yukta is especially significant in this verse. Why? One who is firm in yoga is constantly engaged in Krishna consciousness in all his activities. Sri Rupa Goswami advises, Anasaktasya vishaya tatam upayunjitam. One should be unattached in material affairs and do everything in Krishna consciousness. By this system, which is called Yukta Vairagya, one attains perfection. Therefore, the devotee is not disturbed when somebody is knocking. Somebody's trying to come in. Therefore, the devotee is not disturbed by the description, because he knows that his passage to the Supreme Abode is guaranteed by devotional service. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karamahyam Tadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Shivda Pratakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavanamursham Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sagana Raghunatam Tam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sarvadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakadamuscha Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasyatya Desatharine Pancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, welcome everybody after that wonderful feast. And there's going to be more feast after we finish the class also today, something special. So, we're coming to the end of this interesting chapter. Not a very, it's not something that everybody will be looking forward to on the concept of death and how to transcend the world, but it's educational. And education is what the devotee is searching for in order to perfect his life. He's trying to learn what is the best way, what is the most opportune things that I can do to perfect my current situation. And in this particular chapter, there is a wonderful contrast that Krishna is giving here between the yogi and the devotee. And if we saw earlier on the translation of the word yogi, Prabhupada translates it as devotee. So as much as the yogi is a devotee, but there's still a superlative category, a higher category of what Krishna is wanting to define as a devotee here. He is defining a devotee here as one who remembers him, one who is aspiring to remember him and cultivate this remembrance of Krishna through his life. That, in Krishna's opinion, is the best kind of yogi. And he's already declared that. Where has he done that? At the end of the 6th chapter. So if you open your text to chapter 6, the last verse, 47. Very famous verse. Chapter 6, verse 47, the last verse. Anybody would like to read it? Somebody found it? Yeah, go ahead. Ataha, translation.
And of all yogis, the one with great faith, who always abides in me, thinks of me within himself, and renders transcendental loving service to me. He is the most intimately united with me in yoga, and is the highest of all. That is my opinion.
Yes. So whose opinion? That is Krishna's opinion. This is the highest yogi. So although there's different gradations of yoga, but Krishna concludes this Astanga Yoga chapter of the 6th chapter with this opinion. And what does he say? This yogi who's always abide in me, is always thinking about me, is always absorbed in me. That, in my opinion, is the highest yogi. So just to make that point absolutely clear to Arjuna, this whole chapter comes out. Because at the end, because the purpose of practicing yoga, the test comes when you're leaving the body, like we're going to see just now. That real test comes not in the practice, because that one can do under different situations, in water, in the air, in the Himalayas, different places. But the real test of it comes when you're leaving the body. Have you perfected the yogic art enough so that when you're leaving the body, you're able to control the different energies, the chakras? Are you able to bring it up? Are you able to do all of that properly? Also watching the time, whether it's day, whether it's night. So many things have to be perfect with this. That's why today's verse is so relevant. Now let's see how Prabhupada brings us to a closure here. So he starts the translation, he says here. Although the devotees know these two parts, what are these two parts? That if one passes away in the day or night, different times of the day, different, the Pitruyan and the Devayan. You must have studied this over the past 2 days. These two parts, O Arjuna, they are never bewildered. Therefore be always fixed in devotion. Prabhupada starts the purport. Krishna is here advising Arjuna. What is he advising Arjuna? That he should not be disturbed by the different parts of the soul that the soul can take when leaving the material world. So there are different parts that the soul can take. There are different pathways that one can go through. If one dies at a particular time, yes, definitely there are different destinations for that. So we're going to try to just explore this a little bit and see how we can recognize our good fortune in being a devotee of Krishna. So this was just a summary of what we did so far in the 8th chapter, right? So you can see different, on the top or upper part, these are the different sections that are there. There's a little more detail here. Okay. Right. So if you see the last section where we are now, somebody like to read the last part from 23.
Remembrance by Bhakti Yoga is easier than Ashtanga Yoga.
Yes. So remembrance by doing, this is the point Arjuna, Krishna clarified in the 6th chapter at the end, and this is the point he's concluding this chapter with. It's the same point, he's just making it absolutely clear. Arjuna, did you get it? Do you understand that this is, in my opinion, is the highest yogi, the one who's yogi mam api sarveshan matgatin antaratmanam. Antaratmanam is within himself, is remembering me. Shadavana bhajate yo mam same yukta tamamataha. The same line also, same yukta tamamataha. Yukta tamo. And in the last line of today's verse, it says there, yukta bhavo Arjuna. This yukta, this connecting in yogic practice. So Krishna is trying to say, this is the yoga you should do. And Prabhupada actually brings that point up also. This is the yoga one should do. So there are different forms of this yogic, there are different ways in which one can attain perfection. Now Krishna clarified this yogic process that we just heard about in the 6th chapter. This is the Ashtanga process. And how does this work? So basically there are different chakra fields within your body. These are energy centers within your body. So if one is practicing Ashtanga yoga, he would have had to master these, each and every one of these chakras in order to raise them. Because at the time of death, he must have mastered these to such a degree that he's able to bring it right up to the top and then leave from there. So firstly, he must have mastered this. Secondly, he doesn't know when death is coming. So he must have already been able to master this, so when he's at that moment, he's able to achieve perfection. Otherwise, he'll not attain perfection. We've heard what happens to the unsuccessful yogi. They go to Chandra Loka, 10,000 years there. They've achieved a lot of piety, they've achieved a lot of practice, but they haven't attained perfection. So this is what one has to master if one is doing yoga. So we see an equivalent also in the human body. If you know physiology, these are also the corresponding organs that are connected to these chakras. So one can immediately understand that these chakras actually do exist as nerve or energy centers within the body. So for a yogi, for one who's practicing Ashtanga yoga, he must have mastered all of these. So Prabhupada is bringing out this point here. Okay, let me just, So the two Vedic parts, they are Devayana and Pitruyana. What we can know depends on what we know. What we can know about these things depends on what our foundational knowledge is. If we don't have proper foundational knowledge, then how will we attain the perfection? So Krishna is already establishing, this is the goal. If you can remember me constantly throughout your different practices, in your activities, then that is higher than any other yogic practice. Because if a yogi does not perfect himself in this way and get the timing right, he will not attain perfection. Whereas with bhakti, it's different. If one is constantly remembering Krishna, then there's relationship and there's that gap of grace or mercy that's coming from Krishna also. A yogi is basically on his own. He's making an upward attempt. And basically he's controlling material nature. That's why the siddhis come. That's why he's able to control so much of his own body. He's basically a master of both the gross and the subtle energies. So that's a perfected yogi. And if you think about it technically, it's got nothing to do with spirituality. It's not spiritual. There's no sambandha gyan with the Supreme Lord there. But with the devotee, he doesn't have any of this, but he's already connecting the sambandha gyan. He already has the relationship with Krishna. So as he develops, even though he may not perfect these stages, that gap of grace or mercy that we depend on can actually facilitate when he needs it in that final moment, which a yogi actually doesn't get. If he doesn't make it, that's it. He has to go to Chandraloka or somewhere in this material world and then come back here. So it's a big difference in how it works. Okay. So let's just read okay, let me show you this one. So this to see how big a topic this is in people's minds, even right up onto the higher levels of philosophers, thinkers, scientists even, are trying to work out this point of what is this deeper meaning of life and the higher aspect of understanding death. So let's try to, I'll just show you a short clip first, and then we'll get into a little bit more philosophy. Okay.
What happens when we die? Do we simply cease to be? Or do we survive in some form? What is it that makes us unique, conscious beings? Is the greatest mystery of existence.
It's the greatest mystery of existence. People are trying to figure this one out.
Problem seemingly too big for science to solve. But today, a cluster of biologists, physicists, and philosophers are closing in on the answer to the ultimate question.
Well, they haven't read Bhagavad Gita yet, right? So you can see people are thinking about this because they know that there must be some, if there's meaning in birth, if there's so much of activity that goes on to create birth, then there must be some meaning to death also. It can't be just one is there for the moment and next moment the person is gone. There must be some deeper meaning to it, and they're using so many different ways to try to understand it.
Is there life after death? Is death the end? Eternal silence? Blackness? Nothingness? Or is there a spark inside of us that lives on beyond our physical selves?
So isn't it amazing that they're even thinking about this? Because this is the first instruction Arjuna got, right? But this is the wonderful thing about, those thousands of books that have been distributed, Prabhupada's books. Can you see the kind of questions people are asking these days? It's not just, are you vegetarian? Are you vegan? It's really deep philosophical questions. Where are these questions coming from? If people must be there that are reading Prabhupada's books, otherwise...
This guy did a movie.
Yeah.
He played God.
Oh.
He played God.
I didn't know.
It was, very, very interesting ways he would appear.
Wow.
It was disguised in so many ways.
Interesting.
Very philosophical. I can't remember what the title was.
Bruce and Mike.
Yeah.
I forget his name.
Okay.
But he was good.
Philosophers and scientists have puzzled over that question for thousands of years. It's the great mystery. One that sooner or later we all have to face. One morning when I was 6 years old, my grandmother didn't wake up. Then or ever again. It was my first experience with death. How could she be here yesterday, but gone today? Was she gone forever? Or did some essential part of her live on? Christians and Muslims believe in a heaven for the just and a hell for sinners. Other religions see death as a transition to an existence on a higher plane, or
existence on a higher plane. That's what we're discussing today.
To another life here on earth. All of these beliefs have one thing in common. The body is just a vessel for the soul, and the soul is eternal.
Did you hear that? Yeah. So that's the first instruction Arjuna got. So this is what people are thinking about, but do they have conclusive answers for it? Not yet. They have to read Bhagavad Gita to get that. All right. So let's just go on a little bit more, and then we'll. Okay. So. Okay. So Prabhupada describes here Prabhupada describes here, a devotee of the Supreme Lord should not worry whether he will depart by arrangement or by accident. Now, by arrangement or by accident. Now, it's a big concern for devotees, actually. What will happen to me when that moment comes? Will I be amongst devotees? Will I be conscious enough? Will I be Krishna conscious enough? Will I have my mala with me? Will I have my guru with me? Will I have prasad with me? Just in case I need some for the road. You know, what will happen to me? It's a big concern. And as you get older, as we find more devotees, senior devotees coming and taking shelter in Vrindavan, they actually dealing with this question, because the body is slowing down. The reality of that moment coming soon is very clear. So they're addressing these points in their mind. They're praying with these thoughts in mind to Krishna to give them proper shelter through this. But Prabhupada is saying here, for a devotee, he should not be disturbed by this, by arrangement or by accident. Now, accidents also happen. We know some of the devotees, some of the senior devotees also that have left due to accident. But Prabhupada is saying here, don't let this be on your mind. Why is that? Because can you control it? Is it in your hand? If it's not in your hand and you can't control it, then if it's not in your hand, don't worry about it for now. Worry about what you can do right now, and that is you can serve Krishna. You can think of Krishna. So these are the points that are positive, rather than worrying about something that you can't actually control. And Krishna will do the rest, right? The devotee should be firmly established in Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada is saying it. Devotee should be firmly established in Krishna consciousness. That means in the practice of it. In what are the practice of Krishna consciousness? The different, the ninefold processes of devotional service that one engages in. And whatever service one is given by Krishna, especially most of you reside here in Vrindavan, so you have been selected by Krishna to do the service that you do, whatever it is. He has given you that opportunity to serve Him in that way. And all service is absolute, right? So whether it's kirtan, whether it's cleaning, whether it's garlands, whether it's deity worship, whichever way, and even if it's just hearing the Bhagavatam, Shravanam, just hearing, that is also service. Chanting is also service. So we should appreciate the opportunities we're getting from Krishna in that way. Prabhupada says that establishing Krishna consciousness and chant Hare Krishna. So this chapter is a comparison between this yogic part and the bhakti part. It describes in the Shrutis that there are different devatas. In the Shruti Shastra, it's described there are different devatas that assist one as one leaves the mortal body and makes his journey up. So those personalities have to be aware of your activities and how you are progressing in order to assist you at the higher levels, right? We know this, right? The Vishnu Dutas come. If you're not so pious, then the Yama Dutas come. So different things like that, used by this departed soul. Actually, many traditions have this concept of, you may have heard of this, something a little out there, but it's called the Tibetan Book of the Dead. So if you heard of that, it gives quite a detailed description of this part when you leave, when the soul leaves and his journey. So in the Shrutis also this kind of description is given about Yama and the Lord of Death and his assistants and different parts like that. But for a devotee, he doesn't have to worry. His absorption is, his effort is in trying to remember Krishna, trying to establish that relationship stronger with Krishna. So the focus of yoga is to take the soul to the Brahman level. Brahman means spiritual level. So by practicing yoga, one should reach to the spiritual level. By practicing bhakti yoga, one reaches to Krishna directly. It's also spiritual, but there's a relationship there. It's a deeper connection. So the process of purification. So Bhagavad Gita 24. Okay, we'll skip that part because of time a bit. So in 26, Krishna was mentioning about the dark moon night and the different times when one leaves. So for a perfected yogi, yes, he would have perfected his control of his subtle level and his physical level enough so that he can leave at the time that he desires. But if he doesn't, if that somehow the times are not right, like we know with Bhishma Dev, he was waiting for the sun to come at the right time. Different things like that. Then these credentials are important. But for a devotee, again and again, Prabhupada is reiterating that for a devotee, you don't have to worry about this. Why? Because death is not in your hand. You can't control it. And if you can't control it, what you can control, better focus on that. And the effort to try to remember Krishna, that is the higher control. So we heard about how if you're not perfect, you go to Chandraloka, 10,000 years one spends there. It's a pious, that's why Prabhupada said it's not so easy for these astronauts to have gone to the moon, because it takes so much of effort for a yogi to actually reach to something like that. Can you imagine just somebody going on a spaceship and just, getting in there like that? It's not going to be possible. You need quite a lot of spiritual criteria, credentials in order to get to a planet like that. So, yeah. So two ways to pass. One, you come back, and the other, you don't come back to this world. So Baladev Vidyabhushan in his Govinda Bhashya extensively analyzes this idea here. So the commentary of Baladev Vidyabhushan describes this whole thing in detail, how when one is not perfect and he goes, what happens to him, the one who didn't reach perfection. Yes, okay. So there are a lot of precise factors that have to be taken care of so that one will attain success in the spiritual journey. So like we were saying, there's a lot of criteria that has to be followed. For a yogi, for a bhakta, for a devotee of Krishna, he just depends on Krishna. He knows for his effort in developing that relationship, for what Krishna has said. He's trusting Krishna enough to come and save him at that time. Prabhupada goes on in the purport. He should know that the concern over either of these two paths is troublesome. So either one, whether one passes during the day or the night, both are troublesome. Why is that? Because if you're not perfected in it, there's a high possibility you'll come back here. If you haven't actually timed it perfectly, according to the second, there's a high possibility you would come back to this material world. So you won't transcend it and reach the Brahman higher state. The best way to be absorbed is in Krishna consciousness, is to always dovetail in his service. So just as the yogi has absorption, the devotee also has absorption. But what is the devotee's absorption? Always absorbed in Krishna consciousness. Dovetail everything in Krishna consciousness. That's why we have a culture. A culture is so dynamic because it allows for all our propensities to be facilitated. Whereas a yogi has to go into isolation, he has to cut away from everything, cut away even from his body, detach from his body, cut away from any kind of identification with matter, if he's going to attain that higher level. But when a devotional culture is supporting a yogic practice like Bhakti Yoga, then one merely dovetails all the devotional activities in Krishna consciousness. Then Prabhupada quotes this verse, Anasaktasya Vishaya Yatatam Upayunjitam Nirbandha Krishna Sambandha Yukta Vairagya Uchate, from Nectar of Devotion. And everything can be used in Krishna's service. So that's why we use all these gadgets and all of these things. Otherwise, everybody would sleep. No, actually, otherwise these things won't be purified. They come with a lot of ugra karma. So if these things are not used to glorify Krishna, then the purpose that they are made for, it won't be spiritualized. So we are spiritualizing these things by using it in Krishna consciousness. Dovetailed in his service, and this will make one's path to the spiritual kingdom safe. This will make it safe. Secondly, certain. Certain means there's no doubt. Safe means you're protected. So you're protected, which you're anxious about. It makes it certain, which means there's no doubt. And direct. 3 powerful words there. Safe, certain, direct. So you have no anxiety about death. Anybody anxiety about death? No. No anxiety about death. Krishna Prabhupada is guaranteeing a safe, certain, direct. There's no indirect path to the moon and this side and that side. There's no what if. Prabhupada is saying here certain. And he's saying safe, which means Krishna's protection is there. In the yogic practice, one has to channel his energies. And these are the physical anyway. We went through that. Okay, I'll just skip this part a bit. Just read this part what Prabhupada here. Oh, time has gone away. Okay, let's just read the last part here. Okay, before we get there. So, I just wanted to show you some of these clips of what we were discussing so far. Okay. So the devotee knows Krishna's shelter is there. Krishna will come to lift him up. So it's described like this, that Krishna comes on Garuda and lifts his devotee up. Or he comes on the Vimana is sent, like for Dhruva Maharaj. The Vimana is sent, the flower celestial aeroplane to come pick up his devotee. So as one In the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, it's described of Gop Kumar, that moment when Krishna and his devotee actually meet is a very special moment. I think, who was it, last week, Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhu, was a few days ago. He was telling us about Brihad Bhagavatamrita, how when Gop Kumar met to Krishna, they fainted. Again he got up, again he fainted. So there must be relationship for that to happen. It's not like just you land up in Chandraloka and nobody is there to welcome you. You just reach some planet and you're hoping for the best, You're out there in the middle of nowhere. But here there's a whole welcoming party in the spiritual world is waiting for you to come back. So Krishna again lifting his devotee off from the ocean of samsara. This is the eye of Krishna. This Krishna's eye is the sun. So just like he's constantly watching, protection, taking care of us. So one may know that sign. I think you see it here on the front also. So one may live one's life in a very profitable way. But like we said, if you're not thinking about these higher principles of life, that what actually is going to happen to me? I may accumulate everything material, but at that moment when it comes, am I ready to understand it and go through it? So just living your life in a very astute way, accumulating material opulence is not actually the goal of life. One should think about these higher principles, especially that moment when it comes. So Prabhupada was in no illusion that he was going to also leave his body. Although we know the spiritual master's body is not ordinary, but we all have to reach that level one day. The perfected yogi when he's leaving the body. So Prabhupada has shown us right here in this room, just behind here. So it happened here in this house. So one day that will also happen in our situation. So he was not under any illusion that I'm going to live forever, even though he's practicing spiritual life. No, we all have to leave the body. So when that moment comes, he's advising us to keep engaging in Krishna conscious, safe, certain and direct. 3 guarantees that Krishna is definitely going to intervene in that situation. So these are some of the great saints within our movement. Jayananda Prabhu, who've attained perfection. Vishnu Jan Maharaj. By practicing this process, following this process, and also in our Ajamil also attained perfection, although he had to go through this first, but he also within a short time he attained perfection through it, just by chanting one time the name of Narayan, even indirectly. So can you imagine we constantly crying out Krishna's name, please help me, please guide me, please protect me, please help me understand you better. So if this could happen to somebody who was even chanting in an indirect way, can you imagine we actively trying to develop our relationship with Krishna? So there's great fortune for us. It's not so clear, but it's you recognize him? Yes, George Harrison. He also, somebody asked me the other day, Prabhupada initiated him, what name did he give him? So did you ask me, right? Oh, it was somebody else. So Prabhupada would say, Prabhupada didn't give him a new name, but he said he already has a spiritual name because he's a son of Hari. Hari's son. Harrison, Hari's son. Yeah. So he's already the son of Hari. So no need to give him a new name. And due to that, he was able to influence so many people. He's quite a dynamic person. So the goal is to hear about Krishna. The only way you can remember Krishna is if you're hearing about Krishna. If you're not hearing about Krishna, what is there to remember? You don't have any content. If you're not hearing, there's nothing, there's no content to remember. So we have to keep hearing. So in whatever situation we have, the temple provides 2 wonderful programs like this every day, the Bhagavatam class and here in the Bhagavad Gita class in the evening, to hear about Krishna. Just hear. Even you may not understand, just hear. That was Prabhupada's qualification, he said. My spiritual master would say, He hears, he likes to hear, he doesn't go away. He listens, he hears. So we want to also develop that quality of hearing. So when we start off on the right side, when we start off on the left side, we may have these demoniac features within us still, not cleared, not purified. But by constantly hearing and practicing, Shinvatam Swakata Krishna, Punya Shravana Kirtana, Hridayantastoya Badrani, Vidunoti Surutsatam, all those things will be cleared out. Nasta Prayaso Badrisu, all those things will be cleared out. So from that phase, we'll come to this phase, to the devotee phase. So, Krishna protecting his devotee, like he said, safe, certain and direct. So like that, Krishna is also protecting he's keeping to his word of protecting his devotee. When Arjuna was threatened, he picked up the wheel to protect. He broke his vow even. He broke his vow. Kaunteya pratijanahi name bhakta pranasati. My devotee never perishes. So Krishna even broke his vow in that case. So devotees are doing this process of yoga in the current age, Sankirtan Yagya. This is the Bhakti Yoga process as an activity, as a practice of chanting and dancing and purifying the whole world. In every town and village this is going on, this purification process of dancing and chanting. The Govardhan Leela was also a very beautiful pastime that brings out this protective nature of Krishna. That when his devotees are threatened, he will go to any means to protect them. So this Govardhan Leela also brings that pastime out of Krishna's protective nature, Bhava Grahi Dhanadana, where he is so affectionate to his devotees. So when we have that in mind, then when the moment of death comes, it's not fearful. We're ready to embrace it because we know and we've trusted Krishna's words through the Bhagavad Gita and through the devotees. Again here, protecting Arjuna. Yes, so death comes to anyone at any time. We have to be ready for it. So if you see Prabhupada's face there, you look at the intensity. That intensity can only happen if there's a relationship. If one doesn't have a relationship, what is there to be intense about? What is there to experience if you don't have a relationship? So we want to reach that level of yogic perfection, bhakti yogic perfection, where when we are chanting, when we are singing, when we are praying, we're having a deep experience, like you can see that it's even being reflected there on Prabhupada's face. So devotees have to be careful, like we were talking about accidents. Prabhupada is speaking about arrangements and accidents. So many an accident has happened where devotees have lost their lives. So if you are responsible for driving devotees, please be careful. And even at that, just the main thing is rest before you drive. If you don't get proper rest, because devotees wake up early, then you get sleepy on the wheel, and many accidents happen through that. So be careful, or advise people to be careful. So here on the left side, when we're very nice and young and everybody wants to cuddle us and feed us and everything, and then when we're older, then nobody cares so much after that, right? But it's just the change of the body, it's just the casing that has changed there. But the person within it, that's the person who has to find his way back home. So this was an amazing devotee, one of my favorite devotees. I still haven't met him yet, but he's so absorbed in thinking of Krishna, like Prabhupada is saying, Anasattasya Vishaya, that wherever he goes, what does he do? He books 2 seats, one for his deity. Isn't that in a wonderful, and you can see him hearing, he's listening to some lecture or something, so he's absorbed. So this is it may be an extreme situation, but look at the example that the person, how absorbed, how confident he is that Krishna is with me. This is a wonderful example. It's one of my favorites. Everybody knows this guy? Some of you know him. Yes. So when you ask people, are you okay? Yes, I'm fine. Everything is TK. But they're not okay because they haven't, when that moment comes, they're actually very insecure. Whereas the devotees, no anxiety. Okay? Why they have no anxiety? Because they're always remembering Krishna. They're always absorbed in thinking of Krishna. And that's the goal of this whole chapter, like we were discussing. So in the last 2 minutes, let's hear from Prabhupada quickly, what should we do at the time of death? So he's talking about a friend who didn't want to die. He wanted the doctor to prolong his life.
So he was dying. So he was requesting his doctor, can you not give me at least 4 years to live? I've got some plan. I could not finish it.
So he's saying, can you not give me 4 years to live? I have some plan, I didn't finish it. He's asking the doctor. Why? Because he's still attached to being in that situation and he's fearful now, he's going to leave his body.
This is demonic. Everyone thinks that, oh, I have to do this, I have to do this. No. The doctor's father, for his father, no scientist can check. Oh, no, sir.
The doctor's father, scientist, anyone. Everyone. Nobody can help you in that situation. Only the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita and this assurance that Prabhupada is given it here. Safe, certain, direct.
No, 4 years, not even 4 minutes. You have to go immediately. This is the law. So, before that moment comes, one should be very dexterous to realize Krishna consciousness. Purnam Japeta. Purnam means very swiftly, very quickly, you should realize Krishna consciousness. Anuvatti to go. Next, before the next death comes, you must finish your business.
Finish your business. So one last one, which is one of my most favorite and powerful videos of Prabhupada, because he's assuring here, and I want you to watch this carefully. So he's saying, if you fully surrender, what? Krishna is assuring, right? Now I want you to look at his face and look at his eyes, okay? Look at his face, look at his eyes. Aham tvam sarva papabhyo. I will take away all your sin. Do not fear. Now watch when he says this do not fear part, okay? Watch Prabhupada's face. You ready? You saw that? Moksha Sami Masuchaha. Do not fear. And you saw his eyes? Expressive. Don't fear. Watch it again. He reassures. Don't worry.
Whether I will be able to be relieved from all fears. It is guaranteed.
It is guaranteed.
You do this. So, how much time it requires to surrender to Krishna? Immediately you can do that. Surrender means you surrender and what? As Krishna says.
You surrender means what? Surrender and work as Krishna says. Same thing he said today. Dovetail everything in Krishna. Same point. Krishna is saying to do like this, okay, do like that. So we have so much of opportunity. This is showing the yogic process of the bhakti yogi. He's on the topmost level. As much as it may look, he's not doing anything. He's not doing all the asanas, and he's not doing all the pranayam and everything. What is all that basic? If you look, what is pranayam? It's basically breath control. It's still a material thing. What is the chakras? Moving the chakras up. It's still material energy. You're still playing with material energy. What is spiritual about it? You want spiritual freedom, emancipation. What have you done actually that is spiritual? It's not. You're just playing with the subtle energy, moving it up. Breath control, controlling the breath. You're getting to that point, but you haven't actually tapped anything spiritual yet. Whereas the bhakti yogi, as soon as he starts, first thing he does for Krishna, manvana bhava mad bhakto, madhyajimam namaskaro. You do namaskar to Krishna, it starts. You do obeisance to Krishna, it starts. You take Krishna prasad, it starts. You do some service, it starts. Whereas a yogi who's practicing for a long time, it's not a safe situation. So this is why we have so much of great opportunity in the situation that we're in. So let's maximize the opportunity that we have, and at the end of this lifetime, wrap it all up and go back home, back to Godhead. Prabhupada ki Jai. So